activated any of those apps before. We're on air. It says we're on air.
Awesome.
Well, dig in while we're still kind of doing everything as well.
All right, good morning if you're in Thailand, where Curtis and I are. Good evening if you're in the United States, where I suspect most of you are. And
we're
we
in Costa Rica, where Dave is.
Well, Dave is close to the United States as far as time zone goes. I apologize for getting started late for those of you that are watching, assuming that we are now on air. I was sort of broadcasting us on the wrong channel because technology and I, if you've been watching these shows, you know that it was a marriage made in hell, but we are working on it. And with that, I'm going to go make sure that we are, in fact, now broadcasting and turn it over to Curtis to welcome our very, very special guest, whom I have missed tremendously, the guru slayer, the guru of all things, the kung fu genius, Dave Wood. And Curtis Brew,
hey, what's up?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. Just hanging out, I guess, is not a kung fu genius. I actually like that better than my tagline. You know, you should send emails out, Curtis, that say Curtis Broom, not a kung fu genius.
I know, yeah. Well, you know, I just like. Well, I'm so you know, I'm so impressed by all that you're able to do. The fact that you are, I just have to, like, you know, use similar things. What I love is the fact we've all got our flags up from our hangout stuff, and you know, we put up Costa Rica, and then you popped in with, or we put up Thailand, you popped in with Costa Rica. And like I said, either there was a jealous flag designer who liked it, or he was just dyslexic. they're just reverse images.
They were brothers. They were
brothers. Yeah, brothers from probably different mothers. So, listen, it's been a phenomenal last week. I mean, Lisa and I have been down in Thailand for almost a week now, and we had a big event down here, 5,000 folks, and it was extraordinary. And you know, like you've always said, you know, the events just drive it. In fact, that was one of the things we were talking about. We'd love to spend some time hanging with Dave. What do you think we ought to talk about? We've talked about so many things just over the last months, but it always comes back to, when you talk about core commitments, they just are what they are. Some of the technology adapts what we can do with it, but it still is what it is. And so we were thinking about that. You know, what are a couple of the real key triggers out there? And having a chance to talk to people face to face that, you know, we've worked with from around the world over the last few days, it really is. It's about personal development and attending events if you want to be successful in network marketing. And there's so many other things that we'll go with, but, you know, why don't we just start there? You know, because we've both been through that process of development.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's interesting because, of course, I'm the internet guy, you know, and I've got a chance to travel around in the last year talking to a lot of the groups that are from what the internet people call the old school, which is really just the same thing we do but offline. But it's interesting. You know, I'm the internet guy that thinks everybody should go to events. And has an event culture where, you know, we have an internet business that doesn't really do meetings, but then when we do an event, 3,000 or 4,000 people show up in the States, which is, you know, getting people to events in the States is like herding cats. You know what I mean? It's in Thailand or in China, you know, you say, go to the events or, you know, we'll kill your family, you know, and then they go. But in the States, you know, you drag people over broken glass, you know, they're scraping their knees, you know, they're saying, no, my dog's barking at home, you know, my toenail hurts, I can't go. And we pack the room. But the reason why I think, as far as, especially in direct sales, network marketing, even internet marketing, I think events are so key is because all the players go. You know what I mean? A lot of people, they get in this, they're confused, they don't know how to get results, and they need to meet people who are getting results. And if you look at how you're going to meet people getting results and how you're really going to learn how to copy what they do, you need to go where they're at, and they're always at the events. And the people who never get any results never go to events. And so it's one of the obvious, you know, indicators, I think, just from looking at somebody. You know, if somebody says, you know, I've been in the industry for 10 years and I'm not having results, it's like, well, how many events have you attended in the 10 years? And most of the time, you know, none. You know, I did my first year, you know.
The one they had, a 30 minutes drive, I finally stopped by the second half of the second day. You know, what's interesting is because, you know, we've all heard it said, I mean, I had people telling me too from the very beginning that when you go to an event, it doesn't guarantee you'll make any money, not even $1, or have any success at all. But every single person who is making all the money is at every single event. And you're right. People think, well, if I guess I think back to the beginning when people first talked to me about events, and at the very beginning when they first said it, my first thought was, what are they really going to do on the stage that I think is going to change my life? And though there's stuff that happens there that's important, some of the best impact is showing up with 5,000 other people and going, oh, wow, I wasn't the only loony guy here. And then being able to hang out and realize those names you saw saw somewhere, whether it was online or you saw it in the monthly magazine or you saw it on a website, who now seem like demigods because these are the diamond super grand poobah triple spinning flipping universal pink pearl diamond, and you imagine they have to be 18 feet tall and you walk by and they're
well, they glow in the dark,
Yeah, exactly. You're convinced, and you walk by and they're 5'2", 5'8", their clothes are kind of a little frumpy, and you just go, wow, they're a real human being, and it makes a whole different impact.
Well, I think a big breakthrough that I had actually was the first public event that we did, where we said we need to do an event because I've always had breakthroughs at events, and so we had a theory like it would produce a certain result. So we just said, all right, everybody needs to show up, in Atlanta, and we pounded the message for like a month and a half or 2 months. 1,300 people showed up. And, people say, what's the magical, mystical thing you taught at that event? Because the next 30 days, our company doubled in size. It's like 30 days. It was 30 days. All of the incomes of our top 100 people, they doubled. The incomes doubled. The growth doubled. The sales doubled. Everything doubled. And, people say, well, what did you teach was so magical at the event? The answer was, well, nothing really. we taught the same thing. We taught people to do the same thing that we told them to do before they came to the event. But the difference was they came to the event and they met Lawrence Tam, who was just essentially doing what we told everybody to do at the event, which is the same thing we were telling them to do before the event. But we told them again. And they met Lawrence Tam, and they're like, well, what are you doing? He's like, well, just that, And they're like, oh. And then they meet Aaron Rashkin. They're like, what are you doing? And it's like that. And then it's like, they're like, oh, that's all I have to do is what you've been telling us to do for the last year. And then they go do it. You know what I mean? So,
but now they're inspired to do it because they saw, wow, these are real people. They don't glow in the dark. I guess they just, and they actually see people say, no, I just did what he told me to do. And they pause for a moment. Oh.
We just finished a major year, and the same thing. I think definitely people's believability increases, but the thing that really shocks me is the questions that you get. People come up and they're saying, so, what do you do to, they take out this notebook and you could say, well, I get up and I eat toast, and they want to write down eat toast. And then I tie my shoe. They want to write, okay, tie your shoes. And it's like, guys, stop it. You just, do the stuff. Everybody does the same stuff. It doesn't matter how you get them in the system, just get them in the system. And and then follow the stuff, the leaders, the stuff they say they do every day. Dave, you've been doing this how many years?
Total, I've been doing since 10 years, off and on, okay. Since 2002.
And the core commitments you've talked about for 10 years. Basically, use your product, whatever it is, because how are you going to market something you're not using, excited about, right? Expand your thinking, because you got more than if you want more tomorrow than you had yesterday, obviously you probably should be able to become more. So
that's
read stuff that people smarter and better than you are today, that have done more than you did, that have done what you want to do. It's also basic. So that was the title for this thing. Is the secret that everybody's seeking really some big secret nobody knows, or just something nobody really wants to believe is what it is?
I think that the disconnect, and it goes back to people that are having success now and people that aren't, and because a lot of times I think that somebody feels like they're doing everything that we're doing and they're not getting the same results. It feels like they're doing the same things we're doing, they're just not having the results that we're getting. And every single time, if you take a person like that and they say, well, what are you doing? And you really break down what they're doing, what successful people are doing and what failure people are doing are totally different. And normally, this is not all the time, but normally what people are doing who are not getting results it's really hilarious. What they're doing is they're spending most of the time looking for the secret and worrying about whether what they're doing, which is very little, will work or not. They're spending a lot of time worrying if they're doing old school prospecting. They're spending way more time worrying about looking at the phone than they are picking up the phone. If they're on the internet, they're spending a lot more time thinking about, is the blogging really going to work than they are actually blogging. They're spending more time looking around on internet forums on, what's the secret way to blog, because I know they say to just do it, but what's the secret way? You know what I mean? It's like you guys get, don't you? I mean, you guys are the old schoolers, so
writing what you're doing. There's a secret to how you write what you're excited or interested in. There's magic words or something.
Well, I had a guy. Here's a funny. You'll think this is funny. Like, so I've built my whole business blogging, right? And so, if you look at a normal blog post, right? Now I write some long ones, but a normal blog post has like 500 to 700 words in it, right? Which is, a couple paragraphs. We're not talking about an essay. We're talking about, like you take a book and it's like half the page of a book. You know what I mean? It's like a couple paragraphs. And so I was on Facebook.
Maybe 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was on Facebook, and this person, who was obvious, been in for 2 days into what I'm doing, and they weren't rich yet. You know what I mean? And they
How
literally
long have they been working?
2 days.
Well, 2 days,
How long?
2 days, 2
And
days,
they weren't rich yet?
yeah, they weren't rich yet,
gosh.
right? Yeah, and they wrote like they were complaining in every Facebook group they could find with Empower Network members in it, and each complaint was totally unique, and each one was like half a blog post about how they can't find anything to blog about. So they wrote like 50 blog posts worth of complaining, that they can't find something to blog about. You know what I mean? And so it's like an old school. It's like people are always like, okay, I'll talk to my prospects, but give me the special line. You know what I mean?
We had I gotta tell you, it was so funny. These last 2 or 3 days
ago.
Yeah, no, we were sitting there. I'm telling you, 5,000 people. We had so many people at different times come up, and they have notebook and the pen, and they said, okay, what do you say when? And we were. You try not to, don't write down these words. Let me share with you what you should think, like how you should, because if I told you what I say, it's going to sound really stupid and coming out of your mouth anyway. But it was amazing. Assaulted by hundreds with notebooks. Okay, what exactly do you say when the sun rises in the west for the first time and then the sky's actually pink? And the guy says, but I don't know if I'd be interested. What do you say to that one? It was hysterical, just unbelievable.
Well, I want to share a story. Okay, so this is Lisa. Did you want to say something? My stories probably take a few minutes here.
I'm still caught up on. He worked for 2 days, and he wasn't rich yet.
He couldn't think of anything to blog about.
He couldn't figure out what to blog about. He's like complaining about how it's not in this video and it's not in that video and it's not in this video. And he'd written it was like, if you stacked them all together, maybe not 50 blog posts, but it's probably 15 or 20. 700-word blog posts of complaining. You know what I mean? It just it's like, well, you can put that on your blog. Probably not very conducive to what you're trying to do, but at least you have some posts up.
So here's the first one. Somebody comes up to me. We had dinner the other night. I literally went outside to get some air because I never got my food after 3 hours, and I was a little bit perturbed and didn't want to beat up the waitress in front of the 35 guests that were there, so I thought I should go outside and cool off. And somebody came out to ask me a question. I ended up with 30 people around me. And at the end, he says, but I want to know what you tell people to make them believe as you believe. And I said, if I had the answer to that, there'd be no war. I don't try to get people to believe as I believe. And he said, you must have some secret line to get people to believe as you believe. I said, yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, well, we do, and we'll tell you the secret after you join.
which is, by the way, the secret.
Well, my favorite one was I was on Facebook the other like 6 months ago, and this post got this. Well, no, this is actually about a year and a half ago. It was before I started my company, and I put this little thing on Facebook. I said, it's amazing, guys. I just talked to Mike Dillard, and he gave me this, or he said, no, what I said, guys, it was amazing. I just learned the secret from Mike Dillard of how to make money without talking to anybody or doing anything. Send $10,000 to this PayPal address, and my assistant will call you with the secret tomorrow. And the funny thing is there was like 5 people who thought I wasn't kidding and like went on about my ethics about just like posting my PayPal address on my Facebook wall or something like that. They didn't get like the obvious sarcasm in that, but it's like it's so hilarious. I mean, we make such a fortune, like playing off the fact that people want something that's not there. You know what I mean?
No, it did. Well, in fact, you said you were going to start a story. Let's go ahead and dig in. You've got some of the most enlightening stories.
Okay, so stories. Because I used to be like the people watching this thing, where I used to think there's like this magical, mystical thing. And there's some things that are useful to know, but I mean, maybe 5 things, you know what I mean, which we could cover on a napkin in Safeway, or see, well, I could write down on your box if you're homeless with a magic marker, a few things that are useful. But I used to think there was this magical, mystical thing, right? So every time, I'd go to these conferences, I'd get around these guys, like, just looking for the magical line, because I thought that if I knew what this guy knew and I could say it like he said it, that all the people that were telling me no would tell me yes. I thought that there was a way to get somebody who didn't want to do something, right?
Yes.
And I thought you could do that. Yeah, I thought, okay, Lisa, I know you're Jewish. I know you're Jewish, but I'm Mormon. I know you don't want to be Mormon, but if I tell you exactly right, you know what I mean? If I tell you exactly right, I don't have the line though, so I'm going to go learn it in the magical ceremony, and then I'll come back. When I tell you the line, you'll immediately stop being Jewish and want to be a Mormon. No, it's not how it works. You know what I mean? And I Lisa, actually, as far as religions go, I think the Jews are the best, because if you want to join, they say why. Go ahead. Why would you want to do this? It's hard. You have to get circumcised. There's all these rules. You wear these hats. It's difficult here. Go join an easy religion. But exactly. So I used to think that. I think, if I know what they know, if I know what they know, then all these guys that were telling me no, they're going to tell me yes, right? Like if I changed what I say, it matters very much, right? So I spent all this time and energy, way more time and energy than I actually spent talking to anybody. Unbelievably more. I used to drive around in my car listening to audio tapes, trying to find that magical, mystical key to where everybody would just get in. And if I count the time I spent driving around in my car doing that versus the amount of time I actually spent talking to people, it's like 400 to 1. You know what I mean? I would spend 400 hours of driving around listening to audios trying to find the magical, mystical thing to say for every 1 hour I actually spent actually talking to somebody. You know what I mean? It's hilarious when you just look at it. So then I never really made a lot of money when I was doing that. And then I started working in 2009 online.
Didn't make a lot of money when you were out standing on the X seeking the great secret words?
No, when I spent 400 hours in searching for every 1 hour of action, I never made a lot of money magically. Maybe that is part of the secret.
I'm surprised that the great quest for the magical line did not yield you a fortune.
Yeah, somewhere they missed the instruction. Listening to the tape won't make money. It's okay to listen to the tape, but then you're supposed to do something. You're right. I think if you'd inverted the ratio a little bit, just a little.
You know what the clue might have been? I've seen so many products. I've never seen the one that says how to get rich listening to the magic tapes.
Oh.
Well, I've heard some tapes kind of like that.
Help you.
Yeah. Not necessarily to knock listening to tapes, but understand why you're doing it. Listen to the tape. Oh, absolutely, because that's one of the things we were going to talk about.
What are you listening to the tape for? You're listening to tape to
Yeah, exactly. In other words, we mentioned that personal development was part of it because but personal development isn't trying to go into the tape, ignoring everything you're listening to because I'm predetermined. I'm looking for the secret that'll teach me what to say to convert the person from Judaism to being a Mormon. Instead, just go into it openly so you can develop. And so you're right. So now you just listen to 400 hours of tapes. Quite frankly, probably was almost useless. Well, it wasn't. But
I do have one secret though. I think that one secret is it's best to buy tapes from people that have actually made money doing the thing that you want to do, and not to try to make tapes when you haven't made any money doing anything and try to sell them to people.
Yeah.
Because I think that doesn't work all that well.
That's absolutely true, and I think a lot of people, especially, well, it's funny because we got the offline network marketing, which is like, go talk to people and build a group, and then later when you're a guru, we'll let you train. You know what I mean? And then you've got internet marketing, where it's like, we know you've never made any money in your life, and you live in a basement, and you're poor, and you've never made a dollar in this industry. But first, before you go out there and recruit or talk to anybody or make any money, you got to be a guru, so start making audio tapes for everybody to buy. You know what I mean? It really is hilarious, you know what I mean? And I never did that when I got online. Like, I thought it was embarrassing, actually. So when I got online, I had made some money, but not a lot, and so I knew I needed training content for people. So what I did was actually really similar to what you're now, Lisa, you just go out, you just make a bunch of content. You made the unfortunate network marketing, but here you are bringing experts on, right? Which is exactly what I did. Finding out what they know for people, and so that's how I created my content in the beginning. I got a hold of Mark Yarnell, I got a hold of Cedric Harris, I got a hold of Brian Finale, and a lot of these internet marketing people. I got a hold of Jonathan Budd, and picked their brain and came up with content to train people, and then I used what I learned in taking action and what I know to start making a lot of money using their knowledge. And then once I was making money, I had credibility, so it made sense for me to train. But a lot of people have this disconnect where they're not going to get rich until they're like the guru. Well, you can't be a guru. What are you going to be a guru? I've got a fascinating course for you to buy, Curtis. I want to teach you how I make no money at all, never sponsor a person, and I spent the last 18 days straight, 20 hours a day, without making any money at all, making a course about it. You know what I mean? Let's be real. You know what I mean? It's stupid. It's the stupidest thing ever. And so, I think that could be replaced with a better attitude. I think that's where a lot of the disconnect comes from between the internet people, a lot of the old school people, is a lot of the old schoolers are like, you're going to teach my downline, how I'm lying to them, and how much have you made in network marketing? And the person's, well, like, one time I made 500 a month, 500,000 a month. It's like, no, 500. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was after I made my course, and so they're like, you're going to train my team how to make as much as you make, because I don't want you selling that training to my team. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And there's a disconnect there, and internet doesn't need to do that. You don't need to pretend you're a guru and pretend you're something not to make money. It's not how making money works.
And
you know
yet,
what I mean?
there are people out there that think they do. I think when people get started in anything, whether it's online, offline, old school, new school, I prefer to think of it as things that work and things that don't, because I think BS comes to light in any arena. I have met people seem to think there's a challenge when you first start something and are a beginner at not being any good at it. I mean, what's wrong with that? I spent 2 days explaining to people. They kept saying, well, how do I get good? I said, well, if you want to be good, accept the fact that in the beginning you're really going to suck at whatever it is.
Yeah, and then, well, and also, Lisa, we ran into a lot of folks who they didn't understand the same thing David just said. He tapped in to people who already had experience, and that's what we kept trying to tell people. Look, you don't need to know how to do anything other than just get them to look at stuff. Hey, Dave. What we were just saying is, we were talking about in the last couple of days, everybody was so caught up in how exactly do I do or say, and we said, stop. There are things already there. It's what you do. It's what you do when you go to a company. You've got all this stuff, all these funnels. You don't have to become good at saying anything. Just figure out how to get somebody to look at it, how to get somebody in it, and let it go.
Dave, I wanted to actually draw that distinction, because what really fascinated me, and I'm going to have him on, and hopefully have you on sometime together. I mean,
hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
you cut out there for a second. Okay. What'd you say?
Well, there's I'm going to have him on eventually, and I want to maybe have you two together because it's so interesting. But he's 29. He's the toast of Thailand, from Denmark. And he's what you would say is, we would call him old school if we're using the definitions that everybody seems to use today. Because he builds with 18 to 25-year-olds. 18 to 25-year-olds in a country that really, compared to the United States, you would say they have none of the advantage back home. Army strong. And I was talking with him the other night. He was working also with a group that was in from another country. And when I was listening to him speak, he sounded exactly like you. Because everybody was saying to him, what do you say? What do you say? because this group was obsessed with that everybody had to be doing exactly the same thing to prospect, whether it was online or offline. Everybody had to use the same script. If it was your company, they would be under the impression that everybody has to use the same blog post, because it has to be so exact. They came from that school of thought. And he started talking about that, it doesn't matter. What you tried to tell me a couple weeks ago, however you get them to look at it, the key is once they're in this, when they're here, this is what we do in the company. He said, I don't care how people get in. I have a system for once people are in. We do this, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. I don't care if they've heard about it online, if they read, like you, if it was paid traffic or real traffic or your sister or somebody read a blog. Once they get into the funnel, do these 8 things consistently. Doesn't matter where the traffic comes from. Sure. What do we do with the traffic when we get it? And it was so fascinating to me that no matter what company and no matter how different the products, whether it's online or offline, when you scratch beneath it and you talk to successful people, the fundamentals are the fundamentals.
Well, yeah, this is the interesting thing, and this goes back to what I started talking about earlier, where I spent all this time looking for this magical, mystical thing that if I say this one thing, I'm going to be rich. Yeah. And exactly. Then I started making a lot of money by recruiting a lot of people, right? And if you want to know the secret, here's the secret. It doesn't matter whether you're going wide or going deep. A lot of people need to be buying stuff from your company. Right, I mean, if you want to know the secret, right, Lisa? I mean, the secret to making a lot of money from a downline is
volume. Yeah, you pay money. I mean, little business, little money, some business, some money, lots of business, lots of money.
And the more business, the better. Which the more business equals more people buying stuff, right? And so I was getting people to buy stuff. I switched from looking for the secret all day and night to getting people to buy stuff all day and night, right? Which happens when people are seeing a presentation or being presented a product or really nothing else. I mean, or maybe you're asking for a decision. There's not really a lot of other things. And most of the people who see my stuff don't buy. Most of them, right? It's like anything. If 100 people see my video, most of them don't buy. Yeah. Most people don't buy. I mean, most people don't go to Amazon.com and buy. Most people who see ads on Facebook.com don't buy. Most people who will go to Lisa's site most of them won't buy. Most people who go to Eric Worre's site, they don't buy.
I have nothing for sale. That might be making a problem, but yes, I agree.
Well, then, especially, maybe most of them won't buy. And the ones who do buy, maybe I don't know what they're going to buy, but maybe you could just, put your PayPal email up there and say send money at any time, and they're buying, a donation. And that's cool, because then maybe there's some tax advantages if they just send you money, and it's a gift.
You're so funny, but you're right. Most people won't buy, so more people buy. So the more people you get, the more your few buyers are going to become. That doesn't make any sense. But you know what I meant, right?
Well, yeah. So I was spending all this time trying to figure out what to say, and then I started making a lot of money. And then I was sitting there and I was making a lot of money, and I was on the phone with this guy one day. And I was just annoyed because somebody schemed me into a 3-way call, and I hate them. Not because they don't work, but I just, for whatever, you guys know me. I just don't like being on the phone. I'm the most difficult person to get a hold, because I want to go to the beach. I don't want to be on the phone. So this person in my team tricked me into a 3-way call. They jumped me on one of their, relatives who they thought that were going to make them rich if they'd only get in. It's like one of those calls where it's like, this guy would be so good, and you're like, he works at a cell phone stand selling cell phones. You know what I mean? You think that because he's a salesperson, he's going to be good at network marketing. You know what I mean? Really? Yeah. But he's like, this guy's going to be rich. He's going to make me rich. You got to get him in. Okay, here's Bob. Bob, this is Dave. It was like he jumped on me. And this guy just starts pounding me to death with questions. Now back in the day when I thought that there was a secret, I would have been thinking about, okay, how am I going to counteract this to use the Jedi mind meld on him, to get him to do what I want. To get him to buy, because I needed it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was on the phone and I started answering a question, he cut me off. I started answering a question, he cut me off. I started answering a question, he cut me off. And so I did it like 3 times. I was like, dude, I'm answering your questions. Do you want me to answer or not? Because if you're going to ask me a question, I'm either going to answer it or just hang up the phone. And he says, oh, no, I want the answer. So, okay, which question do you want me to answer? As I start answering, he cuts me off again. And I said, stop again. I said, hey. I said, dude, do you want me to answer the question or not? You know what I mean? Like, I'll answer it if you want me to answer it, but do you want me to or not? And he says, okay, no, I want to know the answer. I want to know. But he asked kind of cocky and said, I want to know what's the answer to this. So I start talking.
I see it coming now.
He third time, right? Third time's a charm, as they say. He cuts me off. I said, go fuck yourself, right? Now, I didn't say that to try to get him in. I said that because I was annoyed, right? I was annoyed. And he said, excuse me, what'd you say? I said, maybe you missed the part of the sentence where I told you to go fuck yourself. Let me repeat it again. Go fuck yourself. And, of course, my downline's shaking because this is the guy that's going to make them rich, right? And the guy says, what? And I said, here's the deal. I said, how much do you make a month? And the guy said, about $2,500. I said, $2,500 a month? And he said, yeah. And I said, I make your annual salary every 20 or 25 days doing nothing. And I work an hour a day, and you work, 10 hours a day. I said, here you are making this weenie-ass income, and you're on the phone with somebody who makes your annual salary every month I'm making what you make in a year, and I live in Costa Rica, and my wife's hot, and yours probably isn't. I said, are you always this much of an asshole? And the guy said, what? And I said, yeah, so here's the deal. I said, I don't prospect. Now, this is what I do.
I hope everybody watching this hangout is taking notes, because that is proper three-way process. That's exactly.
You got to take that down exactly.
GFU. Yeah. Oh, in case you missed it, there you just write all that down.
Myself as a gateway closer, but go F yourself close is new for me. I'm writing that.
No, but you and I there have been a million times. That was exactly. I wish I'd spoken to Dave and I'd written that down, because that was exactly where I was. Wow.
Well, here's the thing. Is like I was just annoyed. Now here's what happened. Is I told the guy, right? I said, here's the deal. You're only allowed to ever call me or talk to me again if you're already in, because I don't do this to get people in. And I said, so I'm going to hang up the phone, and you can go back and make $12 an hour like you are right now, or you could stop being a dork bag and join. And I hung up. And he joined.
Which is what I'm telling you, every single person here should jot that down, because if you've got somebody like that, no, seriously, if you've got somebody like that, really, truly, and everybody's had them. No, but everybody's had them. If you've got somebody like that, you really ought to have two choices. Smash them right in the face, because maybe you'll jolt them into some reality, or you feel great. Go off and do something else and enjoy your day.
Well, when that guy, I'll tell you.
You were really anxious for this guy to join, were you? You were like sending up flares. We did.
I about crapped my pants. I was so shocked. But this is what I did. I took my script books, when that happened, and I tossed them all in the trash, because nothing made any sense. But then I had to think back to what happened there. Well, here's what happened. There really are some
great lessons there. There really are.
Yeah, several things. Number one, a lot of people were being talked to and exposed and presented to my business all over the world through all sorts of different means, through all sorts of different spheres of influence all the time, and the numbers were in play. See, if 30 or 100 people are seeing a presentation in a day, you could be, have bad breath, be awful at the presentation, be sending them to a dumb presentation, and it's going to be kind of hard for somebody to not be joining every day. It's going to be difficult. You got to really, 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 even if you go up to like 100 people a day and you say, hey, I smell bad and I'm funny looking, and you smell bad and you're funny looking, and I'm in Amway and I think it sucks, and you should get in too. You know what I mean?
Eventually someone will join.
To do that. Somebody's going to burst into laughter and just give you their
Nobody's
credit.
Nobody's going to join them. Your numbers aren't going to be good with that pitch. But the truth is, if you give that pitch to enough people, even somebody will join that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they will. It's not saying to go around like totally being an idiot all the time, but I just started saying what I wanted to do, but playing with bigger numbers, right?
Sure.
And then I had a goal in my stuff, which is go on, Curtis.
No, because there really was something in there and it's one of the things I said is we had so many people asking us this last week about exactly how to. What is that secret? What is that script? That at some point I finally said, stop. You know what it is? I don't care what you say, but I will tell you how you say it can have a dramatic impact. And we can use that later. A little bit later when we start talking about personal development. One of the greatest benefits of personal development is becoming something. In other words, that guy never had anybody get in his face so hard, so crystal clear, who didn't care, that he suddenly realized, wow, if this guy doesn't care, maybe there's something there, or whatever it was. Sometimes it is not the script. It's literally how strong, solid, and ballsy you are when you say whatever you say.
I think that's it, actually.
It's all your posture.
Yeah, it's all the strength of
it's all your level of belief. Dave, something else you said.
If you don't care, it's big, huh?
Yeah.
That's actually what I taught. That was my training this weekend. Is it's all your attitude. When somebody really knows that you don't care, you like them to join because it's good. It's good for them, especially if but you don't care what they do. They can't handle it most of the time. What do you mean that you're going to go on and be successful? That company's going to be successful. You're going to make money without me. How dare you suggest that it can be successful without me?
The story. But Dave, the story you just gave, and I said there are a lot of lessons. I mean, we all start laughing about it and write that down. But I actually really would, because here's one of the lessons. A long time ago, when I was very early on and I really sucked, but I was trying, and I finally stopped because I wouldn't listen to anybody. And finally, I decided to listen. I wasn't smart enough to at least I wasn't even going to listen to the tapes, whether I even listened to them incorrectly. And a guy who later mentored me said, "Let me ask you a question. Let's say you made $50,000, $100,000 last week. Okay, you made $100,000 last week. And you're talking to somebody who's uppity, snotty, got an attitude, or they seem disinterested." He said, or they actually are paying attention. Bottom line, deep down, do you really care what they do? And I said, well, no. He said, okay, that's how you get the first person to sign up. I don't care what you do because I've made a decision what I'm going to do. All I care about is I think you ought to at least be aware. And so that's really what you did. It was so crystal clear. I don't care what you do. Let's be really clear. I'm making 3 weeks what you make in a year. And you're busting my ball, and I'm not going to do it. So I will not speak to you again until you're in. And if you don't choose to get again, great. The good news is we never have to speak again. Bam. In other words, it was that posture of, I'd love to have you, kind of subliminally down there. There was some love, I guess. But boom, I just don't. And it's not that I don't care because I don't care. We all care. But I don't care about what you choose to do. That's your choice. I honor that. Go ahead. And you're right. It's that posture thing. I love that. I'm writing that down. GFU is a great response.
Well, it is. It's the perfect response. It just is the epitome of just not giving a crap.
Yeah,
and that's what I've learned. It's like, when you can detach from and realize, like, see, this is where I got to a place where I realized if my biggest leader quits tomorrow, I don't want them to quit. You know what I mean? But I'll replace them that day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I'll just put somebody else there. You know what I mean? It's not. I'm not going to cry about it.
Sure.
And
it's happened before.
You can replace them until you find that person. If you lose somebody, if you lose a team, you've got the knowledge. Okay, if I can go out and rebuild it myself.
Sure.
That's the real security, is knowing. I mean, Dave, if you tomorrow had to start over somewhere, as long as you had a computer and an ability to get to the internet, and walked outside and saw something that fascinated you or interested you that you could pontificate about or rail about or rant about, within a week you would have another 500 people to talk to, would you not?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's that fast. I mean, how many times, Lisa, have you lost a team and just replaced them? Happens all the time.
In a career, good solid teams, a dozen.
Yeah. You can replace them is the point. They're replaceable.
But teams, you can always rebuild a team. And you know what I've come to realize? The teams I'm looking to build today, the people I look to be with, like people like you and Dave, Terry LaCour, Mike Sarfeld, various people around the world, and various opportunities and companies, those people are far and few between. To find people of integrity that are fun, people that you want to just run the world beaches with. But finding people that can make money, they're not hard to find.
No, there are hundreds and hundreds of millions all over the world. It's just how many times you just out asking. Which then comes back maybe to that personal development side, because that's really what happened a couple of times. I find, in fact, there was, as another story, there was a couple of months ago, someone I was in another part of the world, and they said, I've got this list of 400 names, and can you tell me, I don't really know them real well. I know the person who knows them, and he'd gotten somebody's list who said, here's everybody I know, but I don't really am interested. And he said, when I call him, what should I say? And I said, stop it. Stop asking me what to say. I want you right now to decide how you're going to say it. And I want you to say it with such absolute, you're urgent. I don't have time. I got a couple seconds here to say just whatever you say it very short, say it very fast, and say it very convincingly, boom. And he called me the next day, said, I called 5. I said, yeah. He said, all 5 want to see what I'm doing. I said, what? He said, that's really? He said, I said, see what I mean? And then what he did is he called back a minute later. He said, one of the 5 actually just called me back. I said, what did he say? He said, I've been thinking about it all night. I don't even know what you're doing, but I decided I have to do it with you, whatever it is. How fast can we meet? And he literally, I said, well, did you tell them anything? He said, no, I didn't tell them anything about what we're doing. I didn't tell them one thing. He said, there's a company that's going to change the face of our country, just getting started. I'm looking for some key people, and I got to know right now, yes or no, because I'm booking appointments, and I don't have time. I only got 10 more seconds, yes or no, or something like that. And all of a sudden, he could never get anybody, or he wasn't getting the result he wanted. And 5 out of 5, everybody wanted to find out now, are you going to do it? Of course not. But he just took his head and went, and all of a sudden, it was amazing.
Dave, I have a question for you, just kind of transitioning back to the topic. You grew up in network marketing. Your family was in it. You were aware of it at a young age. You had some belief level. Live events. Did a light bulb go on for you? Some greater realization of what it could be? Somebody that said something that got you. Did you get? And did a live event really do it for you? Take you to some next level?
No, it didn't. But here, let me talk about that for a second. It didn't. No, not for me. I went to events, every company event that I've ever been actively building. I've gone to every single one of them without exception. Since I've been even when I was poor. When I was in Amway, I went to every single event. I went to 4 events a year, big events, and then I went to monthly events. And sometimes I'd drive to the next state. And I was actually thinking about it the other day, Lisa. I actually used to drive up to. I was living in Arizona. I used to drive up to Utah 2 or 3 times a month doing little home presentations up there, and my car broke down a few times, and I needed to get to work in a few hours. And I don't know if you were. I have all these crazy stories I've never told that I just started to remember the other week from I did thousands of presentations, and I made no money, and then I got in another company. I didn't really make any money with the events. But here's where the events really added a lot of value to me, is years later. When I started to finally make a lot of money, it was the stuff that I learned through osmosis, through being around that have enabled me to do all of the coolest stuff that I've done. And I had to experience success to realize that had I not gone to those events, I wouldn't have anywhere close to the lifestyle I have now.
So there wasn't a conscious realization at the time that it made this
for me, I didn't have an instant breakthrough. I didn't have an instant breakthrough at an event.
Later, it was that evolution.
But you were wise enough to keep going. No, I had a similar, events for me, when I first went to them, what fascinated me was the cult-like phenomenon that you could see occur at some of those events. Yeah. I found that fascinating. I certainly enjoyed them. I can't tell you that I was as seduced by it as many of the people that were there, so I sort of was fascinated by it. But what they did do for me was they made me realize the scope of how big the industry was and how big it was going to get. Because I really never appreciated what this industry was when it was first brought to me. I saw somewhere between the Avon lady and crazy people in California was kind of how I saw network marketing when I first heard of it, and I never really imagined, what it was. But as the years have gone on, I realized that without that glue, people don't have a sense of community or a sense of belonging to something. Without that, I don't think you ever can really build anything great or sustainable. I think that's one of the reasons. Obviously, there's so many more. But I think one of the things that you've nailed so early on that has made you such a phenomenon in the online world is your very quick integration of the live event to what you were doing.
Well, and our events are very different too from the internet events, and anybody who's been to both worlds understands. I mean, pretty much the internet, and you come from the opposite world, right? But the internet. The events are like what you experienced the other month. You go to the event, and every speaker, every hour of the day, from 8 in the morning till 10 at night, gives a fluff speech, then pitches. You know what I mean? That's the internet event. That's the purpose, yes. Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's all of them. The internet, that's... it's right. What they do. Where the purpose of a network marketing event is you take a group, and you make the next event like this. right? You take an event of 1,000, and the goal is to make the next event have 2,000, right? Yeah. And it's kind of the only goal, you know, and so it's a different goal.
That's almost, so but yeah, I'm saying your events are almost much more closely related to traditional network marketing events in their size, scope, and goal, and what they accomplished than what I saw at the one internet event I've been at. I certainly don't want to say that the one I've been at makes me any kind of an authority. I found that fascinating too.
It does. They're all the same. You know, they're all the same. You know,
Curtis, since you weren't there,
pay $297 to get pitched every hour of the day.
I was going to say, it's kind of like what you used to do for a living, except instead of running newspaper ads to get an audience, they have a built-in audience that paid to join and comes all the time.
Well, what was really funny, Dave, is when you started your company and when you did your first event, we laughed about it. You know, we were talking about it afterwards. What was funny was because the first event you had was almost all internet type of people, online people.
Yeah.
But when they showed up,
not the second.
I'll get there, Lise. When they showed up, the advantage was that when they showed up, we all laughed about the fact that we were looking at them in the hallway, and they're almost like surprised, like, oh my gosh, there really is something here, because the internet, you know, you think there's something there past the computer screen, but you wonder. Whereas starting in the second event, like 30%, just the very second event, 30% of the people who were there had been invited by somebody they knew. It wasn't just an online development process, because the first event led to that doubling, but in the second event, and it continues to grow now, we're like, oh my gosh, I did. So you took something that was intangible, and then you were able to touch it. And it's that touch. But in traditional marketing, that's what it is. It's that touch. And you're right. It's let's go from here to the next one. Let's go from there. There, let's go to that. There, let's go to that.
Yeah. Well, that's and that is a very different energy, because you actually got to teach somebody something that's going to create enough results to where they come back and bring people to the next one, right? And want to be at the next one. And you've got to create an experience to where they want to be at the next one. Whereas, like, the goal in a normal internet event is not to get them to want to come back. It's to extract as much money out of them as possible. And actually, that's exactly what people talk about backstage, is how can we extract as much money out of the room as possible. You know what I mean? It's hilarious hearing
people say that. And sometimes it's on the fly.
You know?
Okay, what can we do in the next hour to see if we can get more than we had from our original plan starting this morning?
Yeah. How can we extract a little bit more money? And you've been around speakers. I mean, you know they talk like that. I mean, it's just it's like I heard it for the first time, and I was like, really? This is the goal? This is why we're here? You know what I mean? It's like, who cares what we teach them? Let's just get as much money as possible, you know. And I just think it's hilarious, honestly. And if we change our attitude about that, I mean, the cool thing is that you can
that's what I think is brilliant about what you've done. No, what I think is brilliant about what you've done with your company, yes, it's an internet online company, but there's and probably many of the online folks who have been drawn to it, who haven't had that more traditional experience, because you've had so many years of that foundation of traditional experience, is they don't realize that how much of the mentality of that is truly embedded. And I think that's why you're experiencing the kind of results you are, and nobody's ever been able to do that before, duplicate what you've done. Because there is real power in getting people to come in, and if you can adjust their thinking a little bit and getting them to come back, and this time come back and bring more, and then getting them to come back. And so, I think there's a dramatic difference in that. And that also comes back then to the the personal development side. I mean, I know that you've spent a ton of your time over your lifetime. You just studying and reading and buying material just so that you could see what somebody else was doing. In fact, as successful as you are now, in fact, I don't know when it was, we got on a Skype call, maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, and we said, what's going on? He said, I just finished buying this new course of this because I want to see how they do this. It's all about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and this is the way I look at it. I mean, the world, it's not just network marketing. I mean, the whole world pays just out the wazoo for education for a reason. It's because you can only accomplish what you know. You know what I mean? If you don't, Robert Kiyosaki said that one of the best ways to increase your income is to increase your financial vocabulary. Just knowing that certain things exist automatically increases your ability to do them. And there's so much we don't know. And if you look at, my dad, let me give you an example there. My dad went to Stanford and Cornell, and he graduated in the top. He was the salutatorian of his high school. My mom was valedictorian of her high school. So I have smart parents. And
salutatorian is the one that's the second valedictorian, right?
yeah, so my dad was the second, my mom was the first in their class. And of course, I was, I think, like 250 out of 500. Huh?
I said you come by your genius, honestly.
Yeah. Well, no, they're super smart. But if you think about what they did, so my dad, and he's incredibly smart. They're missionaries now over in South Africa. My dad went to all that school. He spent probably $100,000 or whatever on his education way back in the day.
Today it would have been a couple hundred grand easy.
So he could pass a bar exam. So he could work for a law firm for a few years, and then he decided he didn't like private law, so he worked for the state. And as you guys both know, lawyers who work for the state just don't make as much money as private lawyers who are really smart. So my dad made about $60,000 a year for the first 20 years of his career, and then he went into then he got up to about 80 grand. Then he took a pay cut so he could go be a judge. So then he went in to be a district court judge, took a little bit of a pay cut, but with better benefits because it was for the state, and then spent the rest of his career moving up that ladder till he was the Superior Court judge up in Fairbanks and the presiding Superior Court judge over that area. Now, so if you look at that, I don't know what my dad's income was at the end. Let's say it was just shy of a couple $100,000 a year after 40 years in Stanford and Cornell. How much did he spend on his education? You know what I mean? And
sure.
Why did he do that? He did it because he spent the money on the education so he could have a better life. And so the way I look at it is like this. Even though I don't want to do what my dad did, now my dad was in the top 1% income bracket in the States, which is, regardless of whether somebody's an employee of the state or...
Eventually he got
impressive.
there.
He got there. But if you look at like what we have the ability to do, I mean, I'm taking, I've got people who, were homeless and passing out, escort cards on Vegas to eat who are making more money than my dad ever made. You know what I mean? In 6 months. You know, so what's a marketing education really worth? What's a network marketing education really worth? What should you pay for it? And the answer is you should pay as much as possible for it. Because cheap information is not always the best. And so I always buy information because I look at it like most people go to college, they're like, I'm educated, now I'm off to work. And it's not like that. The world's changing and growing and altering all the time. Technology's changing all the time. So I look at it like I'm always going to study like a college student does, but stuff that is going to, rather than it's going to make me, $100,000 a year, the stuff that's going to make me $100,000 a day. That's what I want to learn. And so that stuff, that information's expensive. You know what I mean? It is.
It's something that a lot of people don't really think about. And I know because you're so successful, you do. I think all successful people do. So I think it points out, what is it worth to you if you can get something if you can buy something that saves you time? I mean, I don't think people realize that the real valuable commodity is time. I'll spend anything to get myself more time. Because with more time, I can make more money, stay out more fun, go to the beach more often. And, I think that anything if I can buy a product from somebody that's done it, that I can model, that can save me time, what's that worth? Anything I have to pay for.
Oh, yeah. Well, think about it like this, okay? There's multiple perspectives on it, right? Here's a couple of perspectives. Number one, what we do that makes us the most money is not everything that can make us money. What we do that makes us the most money is the things that we're the very best at, right? And I am the very best at one or two things. I'm not the very best at everything, right? I'm definitely not the very best at customer service because I'm going to cuss out the customers, right, when they're complaining, right? Which is exactly what we did for the first month of our company's existence. Somebody'd send me an email, they'd say the site's not working, I'd say stop being a wuss bag, just send your link out. Not the best way to talk to customers, right? And so I'm not the best at customer service. I'm not the best operations guy. You know what I mean? Like I should not be managing financials and operations. I shouldn't be doing it. There's people who are so much cheaper than I am, who are so much better than I am, who have college degrees in it, and I don't, who even understand it, and I don't. Why would I ever want to do that? I mean, it's like,
too, wow.
Yeah, it's like, and they understand how to do it, and it's like, wow, you just like, this is like, I mean, to them, I'm like this wizard or a magic genie or something, and to me, they are too. I mean, it's like that guy has magical powers. He can balance a spreadsheet. You know what I mean? That's incredible. I don't know how he does it. So
he adds them up and sideways and gets the same number. That's just unbelievable.
So think about it like this, okay? If I'm trying to be, for example, if I'm trying to manage like financial charts, just take that as an example and just crunch numbers and on like an 18-page spreadsheet full of expenses and money coming in and things like this. Number one, it would take me the entire month to go through one page, right? And number two, I would miscalculate 5 things in the page. Sure. Number three, I wouldn't be doing any communication or selling, which is the only thing that makes us more money. So the money coming into the account on that part of the spreadsheet would be constantly going down through the month, right?
Well, it would make it easier to account.
Number four, there might be like a mass murder spree around my neighborhood wherever I was sometime that month. I mean, I just don't want to do it. So what's it worth? Well, it's
is if you did that job, by month 3, you'd be out of that job either because you went bankrupt because you weren't selling or because you'd be in jail because you killed somebody out of frustration.
Or I'd be in jail because I accidentally, moved, hundreds of thousands of dollars around in some sort of illegal way. I don't know how to do that stuff. So it's like you look at that and it's like people want to be good at everything. People want to be good at everything, and it's like, why? Why would you ever want to be? Because somebody's like, Dave, teach me the technical skills, and I'm like, I don't know them. I can't. They're like, Dave, how do I set up how do I set this kind of a thing up? And I said, I don't know. I would tell you, I don't know any better than you do. You know what I mean?
I found an AWeber genie. I will never conquer AWeber, but I will have it working.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, this is it. We had that conversation just like about a week ago. It's like certain kinds of technology is expensive. Like the kind of development work we do, it's expensive because we're dealing with a big infrastructure. But what people are like, Dave, I want to learn, I want to be an SEO master. Some people have the right personality for that, right? Sure. The Rob Fords of the world, where they can manage it and not get caught up in it and do it for an hour a day and come out with a brilliant strategy. But the truth is SEO people are a dime a dozen. They're a dime a dozen. I mean, the best ones, maybe they're a few more dimes. You know what I mean? A dozen. But they're still a dime a dozen. There's a million of them.
Sure.
Why would I ever want to learn something so technical that changes every 2.5 months? I have to spend half the 2.5 months being educated on on what Google just changed to try to trick Google again. I don't want to do that. So I don't even understand SEO at all. You know what I mean? I don't even know. I understood it for 3 months when I first got started because I needed to learn it because I had no money to advertise. I had no money to outsource it, so you
had no money to go get the dime a dozens. But now you just go get the dime a dozen because that makes a lot more sense.
Well, Elisa, you'll think this is funny. So month 5, I was sitting there and I was like in my 18th hour of the day submitting this article to somewhere, right, to get some backlinks. And I was sitting there doing this, and I was like, God, I hate this, right? And then it just struck me that I made like $45,000 the month before. And I was like, why the hell am I doing this? This is like the job of a $10 an hour person. You know what I mean? This is the stupidest part of my day. You know what I mean? I make money from like my webinars and like my presentations. I should be doing that. So I just stopped, and I haven't done it again since. You know what I mean? It's so free.
You were having to do it because there wasn't any way to do it before you made any money. Then all of a sudden you made money, and it didn't even dawn on you until 30 days of doing the same thing. Hang on, I'm done. But
it's like God, that was dumb. You know what I mean? Hey, I'll be right back. I gotta use the bathroom here. I gotta pee, as they'd say.
Yeah, not a problem. Which leads. Well, I was going to say, while he's gone, one of the things that, what happened for us this last week that we can also talk about, because I think if we talk to Dave about it, he'll say so, that, Dave today and Dave 12 years ago are vastly different. And that goes to the, we've talked about the event stuff, but that goes to the personal development side. And whether somebody goes through a formula or not, but it's the truth. If we looked at all the people who walked across stage, who many of them very young, some older, but who had accomplished great things, even the young ones, the 25, 24-year-olds, 23-year-olds, but you could see it. You could, even if you couldn't hear what they said, you could feel it by the way they stood and what they did. And they had obviously changed dramatically.
While Dave is gone, for those of you that are watching in, this is a good time to do all these fun things that you can do. Go ahead and let us know you're here. If you haven't made a comment yet, please say I'm here. And if there's anything you'd like us to try to cover, you can see we're having such a structured, fun time here this morning that we may get there, we may never get there, we may get to the top with the title of the topic, we may not. But we're having so much fun with my good friend Dave Wood, who is slowly but surely dragging me into the 21st century in the internet.
Yeah,
and if you want to let other people know that we're doing this, you can go up at the top of where you're watching this on YouTube. You'll see a like button with a thumbs up. You're allowed to click that. There's one next to it. Don't click that. That's there for show to make people think they have a choice. Then underneath that, there's a thing that says share. If you click on that, you can go on to Google Plus or to Facebook and say, this is what we're doing. Dave Wood's over here making us laugh our asses off with these incredibly funny stories, basically telling people if you're not good at it and you don't want to do it, why are you? And here he is, back with us, Dave Wood.
Hey, you'll think this is funny too. A lot of times, I'll be doing a webinar and like everybody loves it except for one guy who just complains incessantly. You know what I mean? I'm taking forever to get to the facts. He's like, everybody's like,
no matter what it is, they find the thing to complain about.
Exactly.
Well, they're like, get to the facts. Go through some real information. Get to the technical detail. And there's one guy like, and you'd love it, Lisa, if you haven't seen it. I did a webinar on clarity and focus and goal setting. It's the first webinar of our product, the 15K formula that we're redoing right now. The whole first webinar is on mindset, focus, and strategic thinking, right? Which is, in my opinion, the most important part of business, right? Because I make a lot of money and I don't do any technical stuff. You know what I mean? People are like, Dave, tell me the technical details that you know how to do. And I was like, well, I would, but I don't know how to do anything. You know what I mean? So I can't teach that. All I can teach you is what I do that makes me lots of money, which I'll tell you is not technical stuff. So what do you want? Do you want stuff that makes you money, or do you want like stuff that I don't even know how to teach? So I'm sitting there and this guy's complaining, and so I told him to get off the webinar and that I'd give him his money back, right? And I called him out by name. It's really funny actually in the webinar. I called him out by name and I said, hey, look, hey, here's the deal. You can keep complaining, and I'm going to kick you off the webinar, or you can hang up and I'm just going to give you your money back and you can go away. I said, or you can stop complaining and listen because I make a lot more money than you. What is it? And he kept complaining, and I said, here's the deal. Get off the webinar. Tell customer service we're going to get you the money back. We're going to lock you out of the product, out of all this stuff. And the reason you're not making money is because you're not listening, right? So, but it was a mindset and strategic thinking, how to think strategically about your future in a way that helps you create the results you want, which is the most important part of business. And so here's a guy complaining, and he was the only guy out of a webinar of 1,000 people, with people getting booted off trying to get on, right, on a product that people had paid $1,000 for. He was the only one out of 1,000 people complaining, and he thought that it wasn't valuable. And everybody else was ranting and raving, saying, this is the best training I've ever been to in my life. Well, this guy was complaining. You know what I mean? And so it's like when you look at this, it's like you have a choice. You say, okay, David, how do you make your money? You got to get to the point. You're telling all these stories. Well, for me, I make all my money telling stories. You know what I mean? So you want me to stop telling a story and start explaining how I tell stories, or should I just do what I get paid a lot of money to do? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like Dave, get to the point of how you do this. Well, I make all my money by doing exactly what I'm doing now, which is telling a story, right? I mean, this is how I make my money. And so do you want me to shortcut around that and try to teach you what I pay my $10 an hour guys to do? Or do you want me to teach you how I make the $1,000 an hour? Or the $5,000 an hour? What would you rather learn? I'd rather learn the $5,000 an hour. I don't want to learn the $10 an hour stuff.
Which is what we were saying to people this week. Same thing you said. Your first session, it's on mental clarity and focus and mindset. Why? Because how you do something is irrelevant if you don't do it from the right position of mental clarity, focus, and mindset.
Yeah.
And they just and what's so funny is that people don't get it until they get it. And it's amazing. Most don't ever get it, but when they do, it's really funny to watch that shift. It's like that big, huge light bulb switch. Oh, aha. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, attitude is everything. Attitude is everything. One of the things it's really common. If you look at, this is across companies, across industries, really, especially in network marketing. It's just obvious and super apparent. If you know leaders in a lot of big companies and you start to get in their circles, there's a few things all of them have in common. There's a few things all the broke people have in common. Okay, let me give you the ones the broke people have in common first of all. Every broke group in network marketing, right, is comprised of people who they want to know the secret, right? They want to know the secret. They'll do anything to learn the secret. You know what I mean? They'll hike up a mountain to meet the llama, you know, at the top of the mountain, who somehow
Stand
can
on
talk.
the X for 7 years.
Yeah, stand on an X, and you know, and then when the llama turns around, they'll say the secret is you shouldn't have walked up this mountain. You should have gone to work. You know, they'll do anything to find the secret. They unconsciously avoid taking action. Constantly, they're avoiding taking action. They go to they're going to write a blog post, but then before you know it, they're wandering around their house and then they're at the refrigerator drinking a glass of orange juice, and then they're trying to remember where they put their mittens, you know, and then they're saying, "Gosh, I'm tired. I've been working hard," you know. They're constantly avoiding taking action.
Yeah.
Their numbers are incredibly small. If you look at the numbers of people that are not getting results in network marketing, it's very consistent that none of them are getting 20 or 30 or 40 people a day to look at a presentation somewhere in their organization, either personally or in depth. None of them are doing it. Very consistently, they're not doing it. Very consistently, small numbers of people are moving to the pipeline, and they're always wanting to be on training, but never implementing the training, and they always want to be helped with everything. And you guys will notice this:
Sure.
the people that want the most help are not the people who make the most money.
No.
See, sometimes people, they say, David, I want to be in your team, but will you help me personally? And what they're essentially saying to me is, I want to be in your team, but I want to be one of the people that doesn't make very much money. Because I know that the people who make a lot of money never call me for anything other than to just maybe say hello or hang out.
No.
Isn't it true? It's totally true.
It's absolutely true.
They're telling you, hey, David, here I am, one of the people in your team that's going to drain your energy and time and suck the life out of you, and it's never going to make you a cent. Here I am, over here. My name's Robbie. You know, hello. I'm never going to make you money, but I'm going to take your energy away.
Yeah, I want to make sure you never see the beach again.
Give me attention. I'm squeaky. You know, help me. Give me a back massage. Help me set up my blog. You know, so one day I can blog on it. You know, and that's their concept. Now, here's the interesting thing about leaders. It's really interesting. Leaders will get in, regardless of whether they're making money now, and they'll just start working. And it doesn't matter if they're failing or if it's working or not. When they start working, they'll just start working, and then they'll keep working, and then they will be on the trainings. But they'll be working while they're on the training. See, a lot of people, they're on the trainings and they're pacing around or whatever. Most leaders are like on a training and they're listening to it while they're responding to emails, signing people up into things. There's a big difference, right? Unless they're doing the training, in which case they're focused for 5 minutes.
Huge. Even brand new emerging leaders. You take a look at people who have never done it before, whatever it is, whether it's in the online world, there out in the traditional network marketing. But you find those young up-and-coming chargers or the new up-and-coming chargers, whether they're young, whether they're in 40s, whether they're 60s, but they're doing it for the first time. But what happens is, and you watch them, because you can see out of nowhere there's this name that starts appearing, but they've never done it before. And when you talk with them, do they know how to do everything? No. But they're just massively go do something action-oriented people, period. That's all it is. Yeah, exactly. Ignorance on fire. Their percentages of success are way down. Their overall success is huge because they're doing that terrible job with massive numbers of people. And that's it.
And then they're correcting it with what they learn in the training. See, there's a big difference between learning it and mastering it and then doing it versus just doing it and then correcting it as you're off course all the time.
Yeah,
that's what we all do. All the leaders, they all correct as they're off course all the time. You know, it's like a rocket headed to the moon is off course 99% of the time.
Yep.
Constantly being corrected by NASA.
Back to, you have to be willing. You have to understand everybody's. You know, so many people get into this. And they're so worried that they're not good. They want to be great before they made their first phone call or done their first blog post or whatever it is. You are going to suck on the way to being good. I don't care who you are. If you've never done it before, you're going to suck. And there are disconnects. I mean, Dave, I was listening to you when you actually were describing me with all this online stuff. And I don't like to think of myself as a person who doesn't take action and isn't successful, but I get so confused with all that kind of stuff, and I didn't know where to outsource it. I found these things. This I understood. So I still don't know how to do any of that stuff, but I'm doing something that I can have fun with, and that broke through for me. Because now at least I'll figure whatever. You know, I'll do something. But you're absolutely right. I mean, people are always trying to get perfect. You know, it's funny. I saw a kid here the other day. He was on stage. He was absolutely amazing. Spoke Thai, so I had no headset to translate. And I was telling somebody he's one of the best I've ever seen. Just perfect cadence, great speaker, passion. He said, you know, he's never done a training. He's the #2 earner in all of Thailand for this company. And all he does is tell stories, and the lessons are within the stories. Exactly what you were saying the guy got mad at you for.
Yeah.
I think all the best trainings that I have ever seen are exactly that, because how many ways can you teach somebody how to make a list? This for 20 years. We can do it alphabetical. We can do it sideways. We can do it upside down. Let's use a blue marker. Let's use a yellow marker. Let's make our list on 3x5 cards. I mean, there just isn't a lot to teach in the mechanics of what to do.
No, there's not a lot to teach. That's what people, they get disconnected. Now, there's a lot of things you can help with somebody's communication ability that just make unbelievable differences in their communication.
Sure.
But
most
the
of those are
basis is
personal
they're
development
communicating
types of things.
But
it's not going to help them if they're not talking to a lot of people.
Exactly.
But it presupposes that they're willing to be talking to, communicating, or presenting to someone. Otherwise, what's the point of improving their skills?
Yeah, talking terribly to a whole lot of people will create a positive, successful result. Talking great to nobody doesn't work.
And let's take the list building example. Now this isn't exactly how I build a business, but we all build a list, regardless of whether you're building a list on the internet. The purpose of most of your marketing should be to build a list. The purpose of all the old schoolers in their interactions is to build a big contact list of people that know, like, and trust. It's the same, right? Mm-hmm. But let's take the mechanics of offline list building real quick and the complexity of it, okay? And do a training like that. And then let's do it the powerful way, just for a second, just as a 5-minute, maybe 3 or 5 minute illustration. Okay, so here's technical training. Okay, buy a blue notebook. Okay, open it, grab a pen, and at the top of the piece of paper say my list, and then number it from 1 to 100, and start filling it in with the people that you know and their phone numbers. I'm done.
Training
right?
over.
I mean, there's nothing else to say. Yeah. Right, training over, right? And then when you're done, call them and tell them, hey, I've got this, thing. Look at it, or, I hate your guts. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so wait. All right, very boring training, right? And here's the thing. If I do that.
And short.
Number one, nobody's ever going to remember it. Right? They're going to forget what I said, because then I have to fill in the rest of the training with other technical stuff, and then I'm going to be sitting there talking about technical stuff all day, which nobody ever remembers. So nobody's ever going to remember that I told them to do it.
Sure.
They're not going to remember how to do it. They're going to think there's some mystery, right? So now let's go interesting way. The interesting way would be to take an example of somebody who was struggling and not having the results that they wanted, and tell a story about how they took one simple action and it changed their life, and everything after that was different, and then the training is weaved into the story. So here would be an example. Let's take example of somebody making a contact list and blowing up in their business. Okay, so there's a guy, and he's where a lot of you guys were who are watching this webinar now, about a little over 20 years ago, and he was struggling. And he wasn't making a lot of money. He was in a company that was actually growing real fast. I don't know if you guys have ever been in that situation where you're in something and everyone around you is making money. Everyone's around you is making money. Everybody around you but you is making money. And that's the fortunate place, is when it's everyone but you. You know what I mean? To where you can't really make an excuse. You know what I mean? It's like you can make an excuse when nobody's making money. You know what I mean? If Lisa's not making money and Curtis is making money and nobody's making money, it's like, well, yeah, it sucks, But then when everyone's making money and you're like the lone solo and you're not, well, this is where this gentleman was.
I've been there.
We all been there, and you just feel like such a dumbass because all your excuses don't work.
Yeah.
So he was wondering what the secret was. He was wondering what the secret was. He was wondering what the secret was all day and night. He was listening to tapes. He was listening to tapes. He was going to the seminars. He was working hard, getting on all the conference calls. He was doing, he was taking notes and taking more notes and learning and studying really, really, really hard. And then he had an opportunity to corner one of the guys who was, making $100,000 a month, and drag him and pull him into a corner. And said, I'll pay you anything, I'll do anything. Just tell me what the secret is. Just tell me what the secret is. And the guy pulled him into his chest, looked him in the eye, and he said, pull out a notebook and make a list of everybody you know. Don't ever talk to me again until every single one of them has seen the presentation or told you to rot in hell. And he did. isn't it amazing what can happen when you just stop making excuses and just start taking action? Now, here 20 years later, that guy, and I'll leave you guys to just imagine who it is,
Sure.
is one of the most well-known trainers in all of network marketing. And it all started with that day where he decided that he's going to stop taking excuses and start taking action. So, build your list, right?
Yeah.
Build the list. Now, way one, right, you don't remember what the hell I just said because it's stupid, right? Way two,
Sure.
I did the same training without training, and it was fun for me to tell, and you're wondering if it's a real story or if I just made it up, and you'll have to figure that out. And you'll be wondering about it for the rest of the evening as you go in the evening.
Exactly.
And 4 years later, if you're not successful in network marketing, you'll be remembering that dumb story of the guy who just made the list, and you can't get it out of your head ever. You know what I mean?
You know what's
Exactly.
interesting about that story, Dave? A variation. I don't know who you're talking about. I'm going to get it out of you though if it's real, but a variation on that theme would describe at least a dozen top network marketing people across the industry that I could think of right now.
Oh yeah, there's a million of them.
Sure,
And so you take the story where the guy did what you're trying to teach people to do, and you tell the story about them doing it and how they broke through, and then in the process of telling the story, use indirect commands in the story versus direct, and everybody.
Sure.
It's why Jesus. Look, guys. I wouldn't really consider myself like a Christian person. I hate saying things like that because then people are like, well, what are you? Well, I'm just probably one of the most questioning people in the universe, right? But I think Christians are badass. I think Jews are badass, and I think atheists are badass too. I just kind of love everybody. And but the thing is, if you look at the most influential people in history, they're religious people, just period. Right? I mean,
Sure.
Look how influential Jesus was. Look how influential Joseph Smith was, who started the Mormon Church. Look how influential Muhammad was, right?
Sure.
Look how influential, all of them. And if you break down the way that these people communicate, who are the most influential people in the world, which are religious people, okay, and maybe some politicians, right? They are the most masterful storytellers, and they redirect questions and to just say what they want all the time. See, a lot of people, they're like, people ask you a question, you should answer the question. Well, Jesus never answered anybody's questions. You know what I mean? Well, here he's still got people passing out what he said and quoting it, 2,000 years later. I'd rather talk like that. Why would I ever answer somebody's questions? I don't ever answer people's questions. People
Dave,
like, what?
We put the title of this thing as The Secret. You didn't tell me you were really going to tell them the secret. Now, you think anybody really knows got the secret? Or do you think they're going to get off and still not know that they just got the secret?
Well, yeah, they'll wonder.
Best are paid storytellers.
Yeah, you're right. It's always the story that sells.
Like I'll watch great communicators. I'll watch great communicators and just to get their stories so I can tell their stories. Yeah, I mean, just to see how they tell stories, because, I mean, God, if it's training people what to do, I mean, okay, learn how to make a capture page that converts really high or use somebody else's. Learn how to capture that into a list, and then email them stories all the time with links to buy stuff. And depending on what you sell them is going to depend on probably how happy you are and how rich your life is and things. And if you're doing it offline, build a big list and build a relationship with them, and then find something that you believe in that you can market and sell to your list. It's the same stuff that we all do.
Just tell
There's
stories.
not really a lot to. God, it'd be such a boring industry with no stories. I mean, can you imagine?
Oh,
it's like,
it wouldn't exist
Who
without
would be
stories.
in it?
what would we do all
exactly.
day?
Nobody
What would we do all day?
Dave, if there were no stories, it would come down to the actual products.
I know. Well, in a perfect world with robots, right, who just did what they were programmed to do, and you could program whatever you want, like it'd be a massive industry, right? Because you just say, go talk to people all day and get people in. Yeah. And you'd hit go, and it would just go do it, right? But I was listening to I remember a few years back. You guys know Jeff, right? Jeff Olson.
Sure.
Very well.
He owns a company now, and one of the most brilliant
Killing it.
communicators I think in network marketing. He's just unbelievable in a variety of ways. I remember it popped in one of his things, and he said something in this audio. This is years ago. I still remember today. Because it was so profound. His training, it was 4 hours, and his 4-hour training was if you broke it down to the training, was there's 10 core commitments. The 10 are this, and you could have said it in 30 seconds, right? And that's all the training that there was in 4 hours, right? There was no other training in this.
Sure.
But here's a guy who's had 4 network marketing organizations who've hit over $100 million a year in sales. Now I think 5 with the new one. Yeah,
5 now.
5.
5 now.
Yeah, so now he's got 5, and now he's running a company doing, $15 million a month or some crazy thing. And here's what he said. It was so profound. He said, I could just tell you the 10 things. The 10 things. Right? I could just tell you the 10 things. These are the secrets. I mean, if you want to know the secrets, I'm going to tell you today the 10 things that are the secrets, right? I'll tell you today. He says, but if I tell you the 10 things, you won't do them. You'll question. You'll wonder, you'll forget the 10 things. You'll reorder them and you'll make them the 7 things. But tomorrow they'll be the 15 things, and then some of you it'll be the 4 things. And then some of you will start replacing them with your own things. He says, so I got to take the first 3.5 hours and work on your brain a bit. Because that's how you're going to do them. And then he proceeded to tell stories for 3.5 hours and go through the 10 things in a minute and a half, and then tell another 30 minutes of stories. Right?
Brilliant. Yeah, right.
And I said, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I still remember that entire training. I listened to that training maybe 1 or 2 times, and I could tell you, I could teach the training. And this is, 6 years later,
Sure,
I could
sure.
teach the training. Because you
Great ones
can't
are always
forget
that.
the
Well,
stories.
The example you just gave, everyone on this broadcast will remember the guy being pulled into his chest and face and make a list of everybody you know, and don't call me again till you've spoken to every one of them, and they're either in or they told you to piss off. There you go. I just and walk away. I mean, everybody will remember that story.
Well, let me tell you the story. Oh, go on.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, let me tell you a story. A lot of people, they say, Dave, why are you talking about listening to audios all the time? Why are you always telling people to listen to audios all the time? Because I actually, believe it or not, I have audio playing constantly when I'm doing stuff, unless I forget to turn it on, which is pretty rare, because I like having somebody talking in the background, and I pick up stuff kind of unconsciously through the day. I have audios on 3, 4, 5. I tell people to do it an hour a day. I have audios on all the time. I love it. I like it better than listening to music, honestly. I like music too, but the audios are cool. Somebody said, Dave, why do you do that? Well, a few experiences in my life were profoundly effective in showing me the power of audio, right? But here's the most powerful one that I can't. This always sticks in my head. It's my original upline in Amway, right? It's a guy named Dennis Osterdock, cool as hell guy, right? And he's still in Amway. He's been in Amway since like 1990. Not sure really how big of a penny he is. I think he's like always close to Emerald, whatever that is. And but he was one of the guys that was the original people that started Alaskan Airlines. He was in the team of people that took that to like $1 billion company. He owned a steel factory up in Fairbanks, Alaska that was like a $10 million a year company. Really smart business guy who got pounded to get into Amway constantly. Just pounded by everybody around him because, it was really hot in his age group and for a period of about 3 or 4 or 5 years up in our town, right? And as you know, if something's hot in your age group, everybody in town, in a small town, hears about it 18,000 times. So people pounded this guy to death to get into Amway, right? And he was just like, no, I think that's the stupidest thing ever. But here's what happened. So his best friend goes to a presentation in Washington, right? Goes to a presentation. And he doesn't get in, but he goes to a presentation. And the guy at the presentation says, what do you do for a living? He says, I drive trucks. He says, you drive trucks? Where? And he says, well, back and forth between Washington and Fairbanks, Alaska. And so he says, I'll tell you what you need to do. I don't care if you get an Amway or not, but I'm going to tell you to do something. If you do it, it'll change your life. Now, if I give you $100,000 worth of advice here, will you just promise me to follow it and not question it and just take me up on it for a few days? The guy says, well, yeah, sure, I could do that. The guy says, okay, here, do not turn on the radio under any circumstances on your trip back to Alaska. You are allowed to do nothing but put in Amway tape after Amway tape after Amway tape just for the next few days. And just if it doesn't change your life, then you don't ever have to listen to me again. The guy said, okay, gave him the tapes for free. So this guy gets in his truck, tape after tape after tape after tape after tape for the next 3 days straight. Then he gets to Alaska, and Dennis calls him and he says, "Hey, I'm flying back into town. Can you come pick me up at the airport?" And the guy said, "Yep, Dennis, I got to talk to you about something when you get in town." And goes and picks Dennis up from the airport. Dennis steps off the airplane. His friend grabs him in the chest, pulls him into his face, shoves him against the wall, and says, "Dennis, we're getting an Amway." 20 years later, he's still in.
Yep. There's that close, too. Yeah. Amazing.
Power of audios, man.
Power of audios. But you know, also, but like I said, the posture changed. The power of
now, here's the thing. If that story hadn't happened, okay, now let's just go the ripple effect of audio,
sure.
Okay, just for a second here. If that story hadn't happened, my dad would have never been in Amway. If my dad would have never been in Amway, my dad wouldn't have gone to Amway conferences for 10 years of his life just because he liked them, right? If he hadn't done that, I wouldn't have heard Amway audios playing in the background my whole life growing up. If I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't have gotten Amway when I was 21, and done that for 3 years. And then I wouldn't have been in network marketing till now, and I probably wouldn't have started my company that's doing $5 million a month in sales.
And you wouldn't have met me.
I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't be on this live stream right now on YouTube. And it all started with some random guy who went to a presentation who was told to listen to audios until he got back to Alaska, who took my original upline, shoved him against the wall, and stared at him with crazy, sleep-deprived eyes and said, "Dennis, we're getting an Amway." Power of audios, man. Don't question it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it literally changed
just because I hate open loops, how did the guy do an Amway? Did he become a very huge success?
Well, no, he sponsored 2 guys, both of which are almost emeralds, and has made $5,000 to $8,000 a month from those 2 guys for 20 years.
That's pretty good. It's a part-time thing for him.
He sponsored those 2 and retired, and they both went to work and are still in, and they both do huge amounts of sales in their organization. It's hilarious, really.
So that really is a happy ending.
Yeah, it's a wonderful ending. It's one of those stories that you hear it and you just want to punch that guy in the face. Who got the 2, who now does nothing to make much money. But hey, it does happen sometimes.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Well, I said it just shows. No, but here's the thing. But think about that. All the people who come up and say, "Listen, I don't care about those stories. Tell me how to." Man, they just don't get it.
Yeah, so what do you say to someone who go away?
Here's the secret. Here's the secret. You got to get a grip, make it firm, have a wall, slam them, and look crazed.
Well, here's the secret. Tell more crazy stories to larger and larger audiences all the time.
Well, but when you agree it's working, it's gotten you to $5 million a month.
There is something to be said about that, though. My biggest successes, I knew it was getting better. And people never stopped telling me I was crazy. They just started telling me I was crazy in more and more languages, so I knew it was getting better.
Yep.
So they'll always think you're nuts. People don't think you're crazy, do they, Dave? Now that you're so successful, you've arrived, and people think you're normal, stable, calm. You don't shock anybody.
Now they think I'm crazy, but they get in anyway. you know when the
crazy. Now you're rich and eccentric.
Well, no, see, I used to put on an act, and try to act normal until I discovered that, it was just bullshit to try to be somebody that you weren't. So I just started saying whatever the hell I wanted to say when I wanted to say it. And not only did I enjoy it a lot more, but other people, even if they get offended by it. Well, yeah, because you could get offended, but you got to just say, I like that guy. You can't.
Yeah.
If somebody might be like, I can't dislike this person for doing, they can't, because it's I'm just doing what I want to do, and that means they can do what they want to do. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful thing to be who you are. Nobody's accepted in business. I had a guy a month ago. He took a month and a half to join, right? our company, which in our company we cuss and we swear and we act like goofballs all the time, and I don't wear shoes when I'm speaking at the meetings, and
You're
people
fighting
think
the
it's
forces
weird
of
and
evil,
hilarious.
so all is forgiven.
Yeah. We wear tank tops, and you know, I might have a hole in the crotch of my pants and not notice, you know, and be speaking to, you know, 3,000 people or stuff, and you know, sometimes people are like, this guy, he's like, Dave, you know, I would get in, but you swear and you cuss, and you know, I'm this religion, and I said, hey, just stop for a second, okay, and because I know in this particular religion that you're in, that you're not allowed to watch rated R movies, right? And I also know that because you can't watch rated R movies, you've seen every PG-13 video that exists, right? And probably some rated R ones that you don't tell your family about. I said, so I know also that in those PG-13 movies that you watch with your kids, they cuss more in 2.5 hours than I do in a month straight of listening to my audios. All right? So stop being a damn hypocrite and get in. You don't have to swear. You know what I'm saying? You know, and it's like, it's hilarious, but he couldn't keep away from it. You know what I mean? He couldn't keep away from it. So finally he's like, damn it, I'm just getting in. Right? It's like, well, you know, you just stop complaining, because people, and I said, here, let me give you the philosophy on it here. There's a whole lot of displaced people out there in business. Like, really, I mean, you think about like the suit wearing, Bible thumping, you know, world of network marketing. I mean, it's enough to give anybody in any other religion a heart attack, you know, of boredom, you know, just from watching all this bullshit all the time. You know what I mean? It's like tell me the story and leave the Bible out of it for a meeting. You know what I mean? With some of this, and it's not this wrong with the Bible, but I mean, it's like, what about everybody else? You know what I mean? Who's not a suit wearing, Bible thumping? Or what about even the Christians that aren't like the Bible thumping, like you know, wear thong everywhere underneath my suit type people? You know what I'm saying? They're huge. And so all these people out there that are displaced, who watch the Family Guy at night, you know, and they go to work in a suit and they hate it, and they think their boss is stupid, and they think that Brian Tracy is boring. And excuse me, I think he's phenomenal boring training, but it's the most boring stuff ever to me. Yeah, I'm just being honest. I love it's great training but I got to drink a lot of caffeine to go through it. Unbelievable stuff, right? It's just it's you wear a suit and a tie, and you wake up in the morning and plan, and you follow the day exactly as you plan, and then when you go to bed, you plan the next day before you get up, and then you refine your plan in the morning, exercise for exactly 29.5 minutes, take 30 seconds to splash some water in your face before you immediately go back and plan again. You know, I mean, this is the world of business, and so we've got like these hundreds of thousands of people that they see that, and they would rather be poor and watch the Family Guy. You know what I mean? And like their life. You know what I'm saying? So they see us, and we drop the F-bomb in a video, and they say, God damn, I'm fucking joining this shit. It's badass. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's just different energy. You know, we want those people to feel good, because they can be successful too. You know, they can be successful.
It's not you know, it's the uptight people have a problem. Well, then don't talk like that. But look at the message. We're just not disenfranchising the planet. We're saying, hey, everybody's welcome. Come on in. Be who you are. Say what you're supposed to say. It is. And
it is. And we got the Christians too. And we got the Christians too. And you know, we tell them it's like Chris Record. He's I think, you know, I don't know if he's probably just like there's always the definitions, the born again, you know, versus this versus, I can't keep track of it all. But you know, he's like more, I think, the evangelical type Christian. I mean, he's just an inspiring guy to listen to when he's speaking and training and stuff like that. And, you know, he gets on stage. I'm not going to be like, you know, hey, why didn't you drop the F-bomb in the stage? You know what I mean? And what he said actually at our event, I thought it was cool. He said, look, guys, it's not about swearing or not swearing. It's about accepting people, everybody, for who they are and where they are in life. And isn't that fascinating? If you're a Christian and you just got offended by the F-bomb, that's exactly what Jesus did. Isn't that fascinating, Lisa? I just think it's fascinating that Jesus just loved everybody. You know,
he just accepted them exactly as they were and where they were.
Yeah, well, he was the original badass. Is what, you know. He just like loved people for where they were at. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't matter whether they were a whore.
Very proud of him.
Yeah,
yes, he was. He was a nice Jewish boy, very proper.
Very
exactly.
proud.
He was a Jewish guy.
Firstborn son, did his parents proud, made a name for himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was great. He was great. You know what I mean? So I mean, we want people to just realize that there is. Okay, look, let's talk about getting rich for a second in network marketing or direct sales or selling popcorn door to door or whatever it is. Let's talk about getting rich for a second. Pretty easy,
as an entrepreneur,
right? Yeah, pretty easy. As an entrepreneur, here's how you get rich. You got a product that you want people to buy or that people want to buy, and hopefully people want to buy it because it makes your life a little easier. You got a product, and maybe lots of products, maybe one, preferably with high profit margins. Maybe because if you don't have high profit margins, then you got to sell more of it. And here's what you do: you take that product and you sell it to as many people as is possible. We could end it there. You know what I mean? It's kind of over. Yeah, it's like you take a product and you sell it to as many people.
If you're going from the organization side, you take a product and make sure that it gets
and sell it to the most people that you can.
Or take a product
and
the biggest
it works better.
Make sure it is sold to the most number of people possible through you.
Exactly.
You're selling
either
it,
way,
and you're getting people to sell it, and that's it. That's what it is.
That's all that you make money from. You know what I mean? It's all you make money from. I had this guy pop on my Facebook wall the other day, industry guy who's always talking about value and things. And I said this thing about network marketing being better than a job because jobs pay you weenie ass horse shit, right?
True.
They do. And he said, well, Dave, I find it more useful to ask people questions and find out what they want, and then give them what they want. And I had to respond back, and I said, well, I don't want to ask people questions and find out what they want because I only sell one thing. And if they don't want it, I don't want to talk to them. You know what I mean? It's like, why would I find out what this person wants and then spend an hour to find out that they don't want what I'm selling? I would rather know what my market wants, right? And then make a presentation that chases away the people that don't want it and then gets the people that do want it to buy it in one go and then just get that in front of as many people as possible without me being there. I don't want to talk to people. Why would I ever want to ask people what they want? Because I don't want what they want. I want what I want. And if they want it, cool. And if they don't want it, they don't have to get in. You know what I mean? That's why we say wussy and fuck in our videos is so if somebody sees it who is not a good person to be in, which is the kind of person who's going to get so offended from that they go on a religious tirade and start thumping the Bible in my face, right? That kind of person is probably not, because they're going to complain about everything. And I don't want complainers in, so I'm going to chase them out, and then the other people who are going to get in, I'm going to make them say, this is the most badass thing I've ever seen in my life, and just hit a buy button. And I'm going to do that in a video while I'm at the beach not talking to anybody. Sure. I don't want to talk to people. Sure. Why would I want people to ask what they want, right? Sure. Stupidest thing I've ever heard people say. If you're on one-on-one sales, right, selling widgets to people, great thing to ask people questions. You know what I mean?
That is.
Passionate on this subject, are you? Did you ever go through a point in your career where you had to talk to a lot of people you didn't want to talk to?
Well, no. Think about it, Dave. This is all those years in Walmart walking up to people. Hey, you want to get into something? Hey, you want to get into something? This is all of that finally coming to a realization. I'm making this.
Look, if you think about it like this, okay? Let's say I sell everything. Right? And I have the time to talk to every prospect in the world. Well, then it's a good thing for me to find out what they want. It's hilarious. Well, it's like I used to think I had to listen to people to sell stuff, right? And I mean, this contradicts everything. But then I started meeting people who are the best at selling stuff. And the truth is, they're the worst listeners ever. All this bullshit and all these books about the best communicators in the world being the best listeners is total horseshit. They are not. Right? They are not the best listeners. They're the best.
They convince people they are, however.
Yeah, they're great at convincing people that they're listening, but they're not talking on stage, right?
Yeah, no. So they'll pause.
This person's life, when they're not on stage talking constantly, they listen to people. No, they don't.
No, they don't. They'll pause for a moment for you to ask their questions so they can continue talking about what they were talking about. And that's it.
Exactly.
If they just keep doing it, like you said, I never answer their question. I let them ask it, but I just go back to telling the story or doing what I was going to do from the beginning. You're right. That's who.
Well, I actually find cutting people off is more useful to selling stuff than listening is. Because if I listen to this person, they're going to give me some bullshit about why they don't want to get it. And if they start giving me bullshit, I'm going to cut them off.
Exactly.
Why would I want to listen to that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to listen to them. You know, I'll tell you who I'm going to listen to is people that make money and people that are getting results, which are people that don't listen very much either. Funny enough, they didn't listen to their parents, so they started network marketing, right? They didn't listen to all the people that told them no, so they were successful. You know what I mean? They don't listen to anything.
You know, the world according to Dave. And he's so
I just like contradicting everybody. I think it's fun.
Well, I think that it's full of contradictions, especially this. I mean, you deal with it every day in this industry.
Yeah, of course.
You got magic recipes, magic scripts, and what do you say when, and how do you say this, and what do you say there, and why do people do it with you and not me? I don't know, but I have a few good ideas.
No, but you know, Dave, in fact, if you take what you just said and you think back on it, again, it just comes back to what we talked about at the beginning. Attending events. Why? Because you're hanging out with people who know what they're doing. You know, if you want to make $100,000 a month and you're talking to somebody who's making $56,000 a month, that's impressive. You ask them, have you ever made $100,000 a month? Well, okay, then just how about if you just teach me how to make 56? Because you haven't quite gotten there. Maybe you're en route, but until you're there. And so, but it's the same thing. Then you always did what everybody told you until you finally said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to be me, and that's even if that was by, you said the events didn't seem to make a dramatic impact at the moment, but I realize now it was all that dripping, it was all that just listening to audios. I don't listen to music. It's just all that sudden, all of a sudden, and it came to a culmination. You said, you know, I'm just deciding. In other words, you personally developed yourself to a point where you said, no, I'm just doing it this way, but you do it with such strength that because I just don't care. Don't join. You know, call customer service. I'll give your money back. Yeah. Get off, because here's what we're going to be. Yeah.
Well, here's what I find, and this is really interesting, actually. I got to go in a sec, but I want to kind of give this thought here for a second about this whole listening thing, because it's just so screwy. Every book tells you, every personal development book tells you that the most influential people in the world are the best listeners, and they're not. They're sometimes they're good at listening to certain people, but they're the best people at charismatically communicating a message in a way that influences large numbers of people, which has nothing to do with listening whatsoever. They're two different skills. One-on-one salespeople that are very good one-on-one are very good listeners. Large group communicators who sell to huge audiences, it's a very different skill than selling one-on-one is. It's different, right? So, but in this, it's like you, Lisa, right? You don't listen to people very much.
I tell people I hate one-on-ones. Never did them. Never will do them. And you know, I like to be people, so I agree with you.
Well, yeah, I listen to
people I think I can learn from, but as far as listening, friends, yes. In business, no. I can tell in 35 seconds.
Here's the thing, and here's the distinction.
Why would I listen to them?
Well, yeah, and this is the distinction. Okay, let's take your brain. Okay, and you know, you've got
which one am I? Buy the fancy Perrier or the ugly energy drink?
Well, it could be either. They don't mean anything. They're just symbols. Okay, so here's the point. Okay, basically, when you listen to somebody, you're taking their information and you're pouring it into your brain. That's what you're doing. Okay, when you listen to somebody, you're taking their information and you're pouring it into their brain. All right. So let's say you're this guy with this pristine, like, mineral water brain that's like been fed by the minerals deep in the earth, and you know, money just oozes out of you everywhere you go, right? And then you've got this person over here that is toxic and poisonous, right? And everything they're like Eeyore with a dark cloud surrounding them, right? And they go through life, and plants dry up and die around where they walk, right? Sure. And I'm supposed to then listen to this person? No,
of course not.
Because then they're going to be taking their poisonous garbage trash and dumping it into my pristine water, and then I can't even drink this anymore, right? Here's who you listen to. You listen to people that are getting results that you want to get, right? And here's who you don't listen to, is everybody else. Because everybody else is going to take their poison water, right, that has toxic chemicals in it, and they'll be trying to invade your space all the time, and I wouldn't listen to them ever, because it's the stupidest thing ever to listen to them and to poison your mind with their mind, because their mind is poisonous. Yeah. It's not good.
Exactly.
So this whole listening thing is way overrated. Should you listen to people that are getting results that you want to get in a certain area of life? Yes. Should you be listening to anybody else? No. Why would you ever listen to some dork? You know,
that's why the tapes.
Yeah.
I said that's another reason to listen to the tapes. That's why they're so important, to feed your mind with the right information. And it's less time that the wrong people can get in because you have headphones on listening to the right people.
Yeah. Be selective about, if you're going to do that, then be selective about what you choose to listen to. But use that as a measure. Right. Listen to those that you want to learn from because they've got what you want to go get.
He's very right when he says that, because it was when we were talking with those people yesterday, I realized it. I think all methods of what is it called? You know, when you put the information out there, prospecting, I think they're all effective. Use whatever works for you. You know, and somebody said, which one do you use? You know, I never did one-on-ones. I never did home presentations. They're effective. People in my groups did them. I never used audio tapes, but anything that was smaller groups where people could interrupt with all the ridiculous questions, I shied away from. Because at the end of the day, and I'm good at a couple of things, like you said, Curtis is good at a couple of things. If you have the answer with what you're doing, if you believe you have the answer that people are looking for, why is what they have to say important? They're the ones who are looking. You're the one who has the answer.
And if what I say is going to offend them away, and if what I'm going to say is going to offend them away, I'd rather do it sooner than later.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, because why waste your time? You already know you have the answer, and if they're not ready for it, find someone who's ready.
You know,
I'm not here to serve everybody. You know, I'm not serving of a lot of people. Yeah, but not everyone. God, I mean, I'm not going to go around. I'm not Mother Teresa. You know what I mean? But even she wasn't the servant of everybody. She was the servant of the poor. You know what I mean? She wasn't the servant of everyone. You know what I mean? You got to be specific.
Be specific about who you're going to share it with and who spend it with. And I agree. So therefore, and those who aren't going to do it, those who are going to have those types of attitudes, get through them quickly and move them off.
I'll tell you the honest thing about listening to you. When I very first got started in the industry 197 years ago, and I had that, you know, people won't listen to me, or how do I make people change their mind, or whatever it was. One of my big gurus, you mentioned him earlier, actually said those famous, you know, some will, some won't, so what, someone else is waiting. He was actually right, because that really is the secret to all of it. So what?
Yeah, so many people come in, and one of the reasons you can actually watch it, you can almost see their gears going. They're just getting started. In their mind, they're thinking about, like the lucky trucker, the two people, they're thinking about, okay, here's the 10 people that I think of first, because if I can go not have to work, and if I can say the perfect thing to those 10 and get them all in, and then I can quit, because they said if you do 10, you do 10, instead of just go. Just go.
Anyway, looking at the time, Dave, you know, you are so awesome. Love working with you.
Yeah.
Love since the day we met you, not that long ago in Las Vegas, and you have making me laugh ever since, doing it your way. Thanks for taking time out of your day. We're down here in Thailand, headed back to the States. We'll be back Tuesday morning for Thanksgiving. Thanks to everybody who tuned in.
Absolutely.
We're going to do closing thoughts for Dave in a sec, but before we do, click like, subscribe to my channel, write wonderful things, share this with everybody. Dave, a lot of takeaways for me today. I'm sure everybody else has as well.
Some great stuff, Dave.
Curtis, closing thoughts before we go to Dave to close out?
Well, no, I mean, I think one of the greatest things about this session, and I hope people got it, is you've got to work on yourself. Do that by getting the right information, but get it from people who have what you want. Don't listen to anybody who doesn't have specifically what you want, and be willing to be yourself. But bottom line, listening to all of it does nothing to make you money. Then you got to go do something, and don't look for the perfect time to do. The perfect time to do is just to go do. That's what I took out of all this, and more, and more.
I mean, the thing for me was the stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard it said, and I think it's what we all do unconsciously, but do tell everything through a story. Stories you remember.
Yeah.
And learn to tell them well. If you want to learn. Dave, anybody in particular, any book your favorite book, anything that you suggest other than the Bible? For a good way for a good.
Well, what I would do actually. Well, this is my opinions on a handful of things that are useful to study. Is everything is useful to study if you know how to break things down. If you don't know how to break patterns down, learning how to break patterns down is useful. So the things that have helped me the most with that has been hypnosis and NLP, because they teach you to think and break things down onto why things are working in a certain way. But then once you can break things down, the most useful stories to study are the most influential stories, whatever they are. And so the easiest way to see the most influential stories is to look at the New York Times bestseller list. Harry Potter books are incredibly useful for how to tell stories if you're reading them to learn how to break stories down. If you're reading them for to hang out and travel with wizards across the universe, probably not as useful, right? But if you're reading them and looking and breaking down the patterns of why are so many people buying and reading and referring other people to these books, it's super useful. Looking at key people through history that caused a thought change or were perceived to cause a thought change, regardless of whether they actually did, and then looking at what they said and how they said it, and breaking it down. For example, in the last, my parents are Mormons, right? A lot of my family is very different religion, honestly. The Joseph Smith, probably one of the most influential people in history, and a lot of people, they say, well, I would never do that because I'm this religion. Well, just go look at what he said and how he said it. It's unbelievable. Like people like that, Martin Luther King Jr., go watch his speeches, right? Go watch Hitler's speeches. God, there's a fruitcake. I mean, you talk about a guy that was one of the most, had one of the most messed up philosophies where a lot of people agreed with the most messed up shit ever. Ever in the world. How do you do? If you could get somebody to, yeah, if you could get somebody to believe stuff that's that retarded, right? Really, a brown-haired, brown-eyed guy getting people to believe there's a magical race of blue-haired, blue-eyed people, and everybody else should die. How do you do that? You know what I mean? It's that doesn't even make any sense if you just drop it like that. But if you listen to him speak, you kind of you start getting sucked into listen to him. So, but he was a great communicator, whether he was doing it totally consciously or not. The way he communicated. What if you could take a great idea and convey a great idea with the same things? Well, the same patterns that were used by Hitler were the same patterns used by influential people for the good through history, Martin Luther King Jr., right? They use the same speech patterns. It's the same. Yeah, right. One people is slaughtering 6 million people, and the other people is creating a revolution where people are accepted regardless of skin color. Right. Well, they're using the same patterns of language and communication in both scenarios, and they're both phenomenal, excellent storytellers. And so, I'd say learning how to break things down, and then study what is actually influencing people, which a lot of times I don't think is the self-development stuff. Some of it's really, really, really good. But some of it really is boring, and I think that there's other better stuff to study sometimes, and I think there's more interesting things. Just taking, even some of these guys, network marketing is really a lot like, I think, as far as organizationally, the only thing that's really kind of like it is as far as an organization goes, would be like a born again Christian denomination. Right, which I'm not, right? But if you look at them, network marketing is a volunteer organization, right? Where people can come in and the second they want, they can quit, right? Mm-hmm. They can come in, they can spend $100, they can leave the next day. And in the Mormon church, it's a little bit more structured than that. You know what I mean? As far as studying religions, it was like a born again Christian church. If you're not interesting every week, and if you can't motivate people and pump them up, they go to the next church. Right, that second, sure. They leave. They just jump to the next thing. Sure. The second they're not interested anymore. And so those people are actually, I think, some of the most charismatic religious leaders around. People like Joel Osteen, which, Lisa, you probably just listen to me, you probably think it's funny that I actually look at these people and study this stuff because I'm fascinated by it. It's like some of these guys these churches. Yeah, they have churches of 10,000 people that come in. There's a guy, Lisa, that I saw speak.
Osteen is great, but I think the Powerhouse is, his that's an amazing thing to watch.
And well, that's there's a guy, I want to tell this real quick. I heard him speak. He had 300,000 people around the world in the Kingdom Club, right? Which I got to make fun just a little bit, but 300,000 people around the world were in the Kingdom Club. This is one guy, right? And the Kingdom Club was you gave him $10 a month or more. So here's one guy, Lisa. Not needing to pay any taxes, right? Who has 300,000 people giving him $10 a month or more, You know what I mean?
It's kind of like internet marketing, testing the price point. Did you do some split testing to see what got more people into the kingdom? Or what was it, $10? Was it $9.95? Maybe it was $9.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you think that guy is the biggest shyster ever or not. I mean, you gotta like look at him and say,
I mean, it's amazing.
You have to give him.
How did he do that? You know, yes. I mean, some people here we are struggling to sponsor damn 2 people a month, and this guy's got 300,000 people giving him $10 a month or more. You know, I mean, that's the low end of the donation. You know,
what do you get? What do you get when you're in the Kingdom Club, other than getting to say you're in it?
Well, he prays for you every day.
Is that seriously what you're getting?
Yeah. Well, you know, God's gonna multiply you and bless you for it. But you know the well, yeah, you know, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, it's I'm having a hard time continuing.
I would pray every day for 1,000 people sent me $10. I would sacrifice all the words we would pray every day. Dave, would you pray every day if we were getting $3 million a month to pray?
Wow.
Not $3 million a month. Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, maybe that is 3. Yeah, that's $3 million a month. Well, that's the low end because
$3 million a month. You pray for everyone. Sign me up.
Well, no. For $10 a month, you're in the group prayer though, so I can knock all 300,000 of you out. Now, there are different levels to get a little more specific.
One guy, guys. I mean,
if not listen to Dave's lessons, we're going to outsource the prayers
to
third world nations.
Dave, real quick,
they give us
one guy.
We're going to hire them for $1 a person. We're going to give them personal prayers.
Yeah, exactly. Hang on a second, Dave. What about one person?
Isn't it?
Yeah, what'd you say about one person?
One guy. So here's one guy who's influential enough.
Yeah.
Where 300,000 people. Look, he could be right. You know, if you send him money, God will bless you, right? Whatever, right? So, but here's one guy, right, who has 300,000 people giving him $10 a month or more, right? That is one interesting guy. I mean, I'm fascinated. Sure. I don't need to know anything more. I want to listen to every speech he ever gave.
I want to watch
I listen to them all.
Yeah, you're right, because you learn, you break down the patterns, you see the process. Lisa, what was it that you said? You know, con man and a missionary.
My father used to always say the only difference between a con man and a missionary is their intent, because the material and the way they deliver it will always be the same.
Well, that's it, and that's the thing. Sometimes people hear us talk about these things. This is where I'll leave it. Sometimes people hear us talk about communication, and they think it's like evil or manipulative or whatever. But then their pastor at church is doing it, and it's not. It's like how we always say. It's like a hammer. You can build a house with it, or bash somebody's head in with it. You know what I mean? A tool's a tool. Your fist can build. You can make,
evil.
Yeah, you can make beautiful art with your hands, and you could punch people in the face all day. I mean, a tool is a tool is a tool, and the only question is do you understand the tool or not? Because if you don't understand it, you're going to be doing it anyways, but at the current level of natural ability that you have, whatever that is, which might not be very good. So if you're in a business where you want to create influence and you're not very good, well, then it makes sense to learn the tools, and then you could be the person that you think we're all unethical. Well, you be the ethical one, right? Now, for me, I think what I do is absolutely ethical, because for me, my only intention is to help people. You know what I mean? And sometimes people don't know that if they don't know me at first or whatever. But people who really know me well know that the only reason I do what I do is because I want to help as many people live the way they want as possible. I just love doing it. I've made more money than I could spend for ages now, because I don't really buy nice stuff, and I get a little kick out of helping people for whatever crazy reason, about helping people, make 20 and 30 and 40,000 a month for the first time in their lives and be able to do cool stuff like Justin Ferengi just did, and pick up and move to Colombia because he thinks the end of the world is going to happen, December 21st. So he's going to the safe zone in Colombia, and he has this badass pad that overlooks the city out there, and he's making $35,000 a month with us, or taking a person that never had any money in their life. I like doing that stuff. So for me, that's what I use my skills for, is to do that, right? And I also try to chase people away that aren't good prospects. And so I also use my powers of persuasion to chase people away who I don't really want to be around and who would have a bad experience if they were here, because they'd be complaining all the time. I don't want them in. I don't even want to sell them. I don't want their credit card. You know what I mean? So it's a little different, but Lisa, I appreciate you. Curtis, appreciate you.
Brother, we love you. Thanks so much. I know. And you are too, man. So thanks for that wrap. Lisa, I'll let you wrap it up as we head out.
Well, I am thrilled. I mean, Dave, I adore you. If you joined this broadcast at various points, you probably think one or all of us are crazy, and you would be right, but we all try to use our powers for good. So signing off from Thailand, Costa Rica, and wherever else you may be in the world, thanks for tuning in. It's been a ton of fun. Dave, love, love, love.
Yeah,
Good night,
brother.
all.
Appreciate it.
Say hi to Ash for us. Talk